welcome to the Unlist, the home of the silly hands. No, that's not me. That's Aaron Terrence Hughes with the silly hands. I'm doing the dollar store version of those hands, right? I can't really do the hands. So, this is actually the home of pajamas and t-shirts and messy hair. This is the home of. So, um, today's video is going to be all about white shirt slash office fragrances. I don't think I've ever done any content involving those subjects on this channel. I think I remember talking about office fragrances or that kind of thing on my live stream way back when I did those on Instagram. I can talk about why I stopped doing those later. I've mentioned it in the past. I know I've talked about it on JJ's channel when I've done some interviews with him, but long story short, it was untenable for me. So I moved to the pre-recorded format, which this is. But yeah, most videos on office fragrances slash white shirt fragrances usually fall into recommending the usual suspects fragrances that are built around iris, built around clean lavender accords, built around orange blossom or narrowly, aka eau de cologne. So the usual Prada stuff, narrowly Portofino, that sort of thing, right? People name drop Reflection, which is a higher end option from Amouage. But in general, that's what you get. Older guys, when they think of office fragrances, they tend to think of things like Jacquard Noir, the early Fresh Fougères. They think of things like Paco Rabanne Pour Homme, which at one point, being a very soapy fragrance, was office friendly. These days, younger people might smell that and think it's a bit too chest hair, but at one point, that was office friendly. Younger guys don't go much further back than maybe Platinum Egoist for the office fragrance things. Normally it's within the 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. But again, that's the general vibe. I'm not going to disagree with that because obviously lavender, narrowly, orange blossom, iris, violet, these all end up a major part of our soaps and our shampoos, and thus get associated with clean. And because they're clean, you like to wear clean things to an office, you like to wear clean things to a business environment. You're not on a date, you're not in a suit and tie event, just a white shirt for some kind of mid-tier sort of business casual situation, and you don't want to offend anybody. You don't want to come across like you're trying to pick up on someone, but you also don't want to overdo it. You don't want to go full formal with a big heavy sandalwood fragrance or something like that. So that's where these fall into. My recommendations aren't going to stray too far from what you're expecting, but I will throw a few unexpected things out there. Because you know me, my whole brand is being off the beaten path, as Mr. Smelly likes to say. And as JJ might also say, I like to turn over every stone. I like to really dig into the things, the unloved things, right? I think he's said that that's what I go for most, for the unloved things. I don't know why. I enjoy popular things too. I have plenty popular fragrances in my collection. Like, there's my Bleu de Chanel right there. Very popular. So I've got plenty of popular things. But I find the unloved things, overlooked things, to have more character for some reason. So, more personality. Maybe it's because they don't get enough time to shine like the Bleu de Chanels get, So, anyhow, starting things off right. If you're going to do clean, iris, orange blossomy kind of thing, my go-to is a bit older for some people, but it's still valid to me. And it's the first Prada masculine from 2006 called Prada Amber Pour Homme. In a decade after this came out, so 10 years later, okay, 2016, we would actually see Prada build on the same structure and release what is currently considered to be their best soapy fragrance, just Prada L'Homme. So if you've smelled Prada L'Homme and you enjoy Prada L'Homme, consider Amber Pour Homme to be like its dad or its older brother. They fall from the same tree, okay, but they're slightly different. This one really goes into patchouli more, I'd say, and it focuses a bit more on the iris accords, a bit more along that line, that train of thought, if you will. Whereas the older model, this one is a bit rounder. So you're going to get a bit more vanilla in this, dry, muted spices. Cardamom is in this, so you got to like cardamom. A little bit of saffron in here. Saffron was just starting to really be used in Western fragrances, so at this time it was kind of like the it girl. Saffron was the it girl, so you see it a lot in early 2000s fragrances. Like Versace Man, the original one from 2003, had a saffron note. So does this. Difference is Versace Man is a much greener fragrance, okay? Grape leaf, bunch of green notes, cis-3-hexanol, stuff like that. This is much more soapy. This is like the finest, most filigreed, like hotel soap. And when you wear this, it's pure class in a bottle. But is it super interesting? No, not really. Super exciting? No, definitely not. Not at all. Now, around the same time, this came out. Similar big square chunky bottle. I mentioned this in a previous video of mine. This is an unloved fragrance. And I think this is like one of the most office safe violet fragrances, because most violet fragrances either go really sharp green, they go petrol mode like Fahrenheit, or they just have some element to them that makes them challenging, because violet can be challenging. And if you go full like sweet Parma violets, men don't really like that. I don't mind it, but men don't really like that. So this takes violet and it tempers it with mandarin orange, patchouli, uses a bit of lavender. It's just got this roundness to it that really tames the violet and makes it very office safe. And the more obvious choice would be Burberry Touch. A lot of guys think Burberry Touch is a great office fragrance, and it is. I don't own it though, but I can appreciate it. However, I think the Calvin Klein Man is more slept on, and not only could this be a good office fragrance, but this could also be a signature for somebody, in my opinion. Now, another great office fragrance. One of the rare instances of seeing rose and ginger, in my opinion, being office safe. You don't typically get rose and ginger as an office safe option. 2004, Burberry Brit for men. And it uses rose and ginger, tonka bean, okay, and white musks, very compressed white musks. This is the older style bottle. The new ones have a different like pattern on them, but it doesn't really matter, okay? Get whatever you get. But this has got that ostensibly British kind of prim, clean, doesn't get in its own way kind of thing going on. And You don't want to go full Penhaligon's. You don't want to go full Geoff Trumper. You don't want to go that British, okay? So, you don't want to go full Mr. Smelly. You only want to go half Mr. Smelly. So, you get something like this. Because it's relatively modern, relatively chic. As modern and chic as a 21-year-old fragrance can be, but still clean and, you know, works well in that context, in that white shirt environment. So another one I would recommend is, this is a bit more of a, I guess, obvious one, but it's from '93, so it's older yet. But Excess Pour. A lot of people will also suggest this as an alternative to Himalaya by Creed, which is also a great fragrance, but really expensive. If you can't afford the Creed price tag, and you don't want to go digging in the gray market, right? So pick this up. It's actually older. This came out before the Creed did. The Creed was 2002. This was '93. And it's got this lovely, clean, white musk, oak moss, geranium, mint. And it's not a big, mega mossy, again, it's not a Paco Rabanne style of fougere. And this is actually Paco Rabanne's own answer to Paco Rabanne. Paco Rabanne Pour Homme was 20 years old when this came out. And this was the thing that was meant to succeed it. For the younger guy who still wanted that soapy, clean fougere smell, but a more modern, updated version of it. So Excess Pour Homme was released for that purpose. And it works. I still like original Paco Rabanne, but I get some of you guys don't want to smell like Irish Spring soap. It's a bit too on the nose. So you can wear this instead. It works great in office. Relatively inexpensive. New bottles don't look quite like that one. The new ones are more like this, but it's the same stuff inside, okay? Doesn't matter. Don't let it get to you. Another one I would suggest for the office, and I've made mention of this before, if you don't want to smell like orange blossom, and you don't want to smell like iris, you don't want to smell like lavender and fougères, you want to go a little different, then you pick up the Bois Imperial by Essential Parfums. Their most popular, best-selling fragrance. I know a lot of y'all are Quentin Bish haters, okay? I hear an awful lot of bishing about Bish. A lot of y'all get up on your high and mighty high horses, and you're like, oh God, Quentin Bish, it's Akagalawood, it's all he does. Okay, all right. Yes, his work is a bit too prolific, I think. If you're a hipster, tastemaker type, you don't want to wear a perfume that's one of 100 perfumes released within 2 years by the same one guy, right? It's the same reason why Alberto Morillas gets ragged on, because he does a lot of work, and a lot of it's very samey, okay? Quentin Bish is the same way. Does a lot of work, and a lot of it's very samey. I get it. I understand. But sometimes you can put your reservations aside and just smell a thing and judge a thing based on its own merits. And in this case, Bois Imperial, which is not a clone of Ganymede, okay? Bois Imperial is a really nice, clean, white shirt fragrance. It combines basically Akagalawood, the note that y'all want to bash on. It's the same thing with Ambroxan, Isoe Super, the Hydromercenol back in the 80s and 90s, Kalone, Watermelon Ketone. All of these guys who don't really understand how perfumery works and don't really know what chemicals are and how they're used, they hear a word, and that word is the bogeyman now. That's the bogeyman. That's the reason why all perfumes suck. That one thing is in all perfumes, and it's the reason why they all suck. I'm going to sniff my oak moss now. Okay, alright. So, go live off the grid in your log cabin. Go hunt your deer, eat your deer meat or whatever. Leave me alone. So, the rest of us who are not afraid of science, okay, We don't put tinfoil hats on when using cell phones. We like our Bois Imperial. We understand what it is. Okay? We know it's not wholly natural, but it's a nice, clean, woody, peppery smell. It has this lovely basil note, which I don't understand how everyone who hates on this fragrance because of the Akagala wood somehow misses the basil. This has a really nice basil note in it. And it's that basil note combined with the pepper and the patchouli and the woods that really make this feel so clean and so perfect for a day at the office, a day on patrol if you're a security guard like me and you're in a button-up all day. Whether it's a white or black uniform, doesn't matter. And it lasts forever, assuming you don't like spray 50 million sprays of this and make yourself nose blind to it. That happens. Okay, there's no accounting for that. But assuming you're a reasonable person and you don't go nuts with it, you'll smell it all day. And it's cheaper than a lot of designers are, to be honest. So another one. More recent fragrance. It's Explore Platinum. Not the original Explorer. Okay, so that was a great fragrance. That was a more all-around signature kind of scent. But if we're just doing like office safe stuff, we're doing white shirt stuff, this one edges it out. And again, it has a dry woody profile, but it has a bit of mint to it, and it utilizes this New Caledonian sandalwood. It's not full Santal 33 picklewood, okay, but it's got violet. Same thing with the Calvin Klein Man, it's got violet, but it tempers the violet in such a way with the mint, with the sandalwood, a little bit of tonka, that it just has this perfectly clean, docile, sort of lovely white shirt smell. And it's not related in any way to Aventus. It's not related in any way to the original Explorer, which I like the original Explorer, by the way. Another one that has Akagala wood in it for you Quentin Bish haters, but Quentin Bish didn't actually work on that fragrance, even though it's got Akagala wood in it, so you can't blame that one on him. Okay, sorry, you just can't. Now, another good clean office fragrance. You do want to wear something that's a bit more, I don't know, I guess a bit more obviously fougere, because the excess isn't really. I've mentioned this before in past videos. Caron Pour Un Homme, even though I would like to say you could wear it to an office, it's too musky. I mean, maybe in the 1930s you could wear it to an office. During the film noir, if you're Dick Tracy or something, or Orson Welles, you could wear it to an office. But these days, the original Pour Un Homme is very racy with the musk and the heavy vanilla. It's too much. So you want a version of that that's a bit drier, a bit woodier. Sneak some iris in, so you get that Prada Dior Homme kind of vibe, but with the lavender and the vanilla and the tonka of the Pour Un Homme. So it's a bit more modernized Pour Un Homme, and because it has the iris in it, because it has the woodiness, it's a perfect fragrance for that white shirt environment. And it's called Le Soir. It is the nighttime version somehow, and then the daytime version, which is Le Matin. This one could also be worn in an office, but more ginger with this. Okay, a bit more freshness. I consider Le Matin a bit sportier. Unfortunately, it does have a bit of like a pineapple allyl amyl glycolate vibe, so people will compare this to Aventus. I don't see it. Personally, I don't see it, but either one could be worn in office, but I think this one edges out this one just because the soapiness is present in this and it's not here. So yeah, I like all of the Pour Homme flankers. Honestly, I like the low. I like the sport. Obviously, I like the original. I know the original too, but the new Limitin and Le Soir, but especially the Le Soir is really good for that office freshness. Now, you do want to wear an orange blossom fragrance, a Neroli fragrance. You don't want to wear Neroli Portofino or one of those. If you don't mind digging into discontinued fragrances, get yourself a bottle of this, 96, Castile, modeled after Castile soap by Penhaligon's. I really wish they didn't discontinue this, because this is, of all of the like eau de toilette, eau de parfum attempts to like extend a cologne, take that cologne smell and make it last longer, of all of them, this is my favorite. It just has a certain creaminess and a certain cleanliness to it, and it's not as simple or single-minded as something like Allure Sport Cologne, which is very one-dimensional, lemon and basically musk. It's not as one-dimensional as that. Dior Homme Cologne is also kind of one-dimensional, so it's a bit more built up, a bit more complex. But I don't know. Penhaligon's has not been a very intelligent brand in the recent years, so can't tell you what's going on there. But this was a good one, and if you manage to come across it, this is one of the few times I'll say, yeah, orange blossom fragrance. It's not Neroli Portofino or Natalie Portman, whatever. Neroli Portofino. It's not Natalie Portman, okay? So it's not gonna do a Black Swan dance for you or have really bad Star Wars dialogue, right? Come back. You're going to a place I cannot follow, right? You're not. It's not like that. So, but it's a good fragrance. It's one of the ones I like. So another good white shirt clean kind of thing. Trying to get away from the usual suspects. Like I said, we could talk about iris fragrances all day, talk about orange blossom fragrances all day, but it's not the only way to be clean and prim and proper at the office. Maybe you want to do something a little differently. Maybe you can get yourself a bottle of this. It's another one that's also discontinued, so it could be expensive, probably is expensive, but if you manage to find it, it's called Chemistry by Clinique from 1994. And it's considered a skin scent, like Aramis New West was also labeled as a skin scent. And this one has this nice rosewood going on. So it's almost like someone tried to take Paco Rabanne Pour Homme and modernize it, but in a different way from XS. XS leaned more into geranium, into mint, right? This goes more into the rosewood, but adds musk to it, adds some really interesting white floral choices, and builds it up into just this very, I don't know how else to say it, but just this very sort of ivory soap kind of smell. You remember bars of ivory soap? That may not be appealing to some people, but for me, it's a throwback for sure. And if you can't find this, discontinued, too expensive, that's okay. Don't torture yourself. I have other alternatives for you. So, very similar scent profile to the Chemistry by Clinique, I would say, is this, which you can find for a decent price. Patrick by Fragrances of Island, bit newer, 1999 instead of 1994, but it does a similar thing where it tries to take that Irish Spring sort of feeling, the Paco Rabanne feeling. The difference is this doesn't lean into the rosewood. This leans more into the fougere aspects. So It actually leans more into the lavender, the patchouli, the geranium, but it has just this very perfect, clean musk profile that smells very, very wet shaver friendly. But you're not going to smell like Barbasol, so don't panic, okay? More of a Pro Raso, okay? If you're into Pro Raso, you know, if you're an Italian shaver, you know what Pro Raso is. Take that Pro Raso shave soap smell, stick it in with the Paco Rabanne Pour Homme or Irish Spring, and then put a little tiny bit of Koros in there, but not like the animalic aspect. The other aspect of Koros, that white bar soap aspect of Koros. So merge it all together, stir it with a paint stick or whatever, and then call it Patrick. And stick it in every tourist trap in Ireland. Literally, if you're a Yank and you're visiting Ireland and you go to any of those souvenir shops over there to get your Lucky Shamrock hat or whatever because you're an idiot, you're going to see bottles of this. You're probably going to also see bottles of Innis and Innisfree all lined up in the gift shop, in the Celtic gift shops, okay, that they get all the dumb Americans who come there on vacation. And also the online shops too that do that sort of thing, that sell it online. The, you know, get your Celtic your Celtic knot stuff or whatever, right? Celtic. I'm sorry, I say it wrong sometimes, but this stuff sells in those places too, and it sells for a song. So you shouldn't pay more than $40-50 for this at most, and it's great. Packaging isn't the best, you know, the cap's kind of cheap, but who cares about that? You care about the smell, right? Not in it for the presentation. Now, if you have a little more money to spend, and you're willing to spend it, here's your big boy option. Office friendly, okay? So, I'm going to pick out this one. Boniver by Naughton and Wilson. So yeah, this is one of Dan's. This is one of Mr. Smelly's. And a lot of his stuff rides very formal, okay, very gentlemanly. That's his vibe. He likes that going at classic Chanel, Pour Monsieur, the classic Guerlain. That's his thing. Okay, a lot of his fragrances ride in that vein. But, like Creed Bois de Portugal. But if you don't want to go that heavy into oak moss, that sort of thing, you want it to be a little more, like I said, a little more clean, a little more white shirt, then of all the things he has, this is the one I would recommend for that. And it's going to run you a little more money than the other things I mentioned, barring the discontinued stuff. The discontinued stuff is kind of an unknown. It could be vastly overpriced for all I know. I haven't priced a bottle of chemistry in a long time, so who knows? That's why I gave you Patrick as an alternative. But this one, at least, you don't have to guess the price. The price is a known quantity. And with this one, you're going to get a lot of bright citruses. You're going to get some mossiness in here. You know, all of his fragrances have a mossy undertone, except for Arezzo, really doesn't, but the rest of them do. But the big thing that gets me for this, which makes it a good office fragrance, is it has this sort of white feeling to it. And I don't mean white as in like race or anything, or color, but like white as in the floral choices, the citrus choices. They're very white in the sense that they feel just kind of, it's not dark, it's not fruity and colorful, okay? It's not heavy on herbs or woods. You get this very powdery sort of white, you know, kind of almost like a struggling for words here. Like you get like almost like a what's why it's a white shirt fragrance, right? Because you get that sort of white feeling of it's just very clear citrus notes, lime, lemon, white floral choices like Muget. Muget is a part of this. Perfect example of what I'm talking about. Okay, jasmine, all right, and it's just got, like I said, just has that sort of, it's not dark and heavy, herbal, leathery. It's not super mossy. Doesn't go heavy on lavender. Doesn't do any of that. Stays in that kind of white floral chypre vein. Closest thing to this I can think of is Etiquette Blue by Parfums d'Orsay, which is discontinued, and I'm not recommending that. But similarly built to that, but more complex than that, more modern than that. Because that's another orange blossom fragrance. Etiquette Blue is another orange blossom fragrance, like the Castile I mentioned. So, but heftier with the sandalwood, with the oak moss, and the white musks. And I just think if you don't want to go down the rabbit hole and hunt old stuff, and my Prada recommendations were a bit too common for you. You want something really unique that's not going to smell like anybody else at the office, right? You want to stand out. You don't want to be rude and have too much sillage, and you don't want to be too musky or whatever, too sweet. But you want to still be clean and proper, but you want to be different. Then I can't think of a better way to do that than with this. This is one of the most different you're going to find in that vein, if you will. Unless you really go down some artisanal rabbit holes and dig up some strange stuff, you just might, you know. But there you guys have it. There are my office white shirt fragrances. This has been the Unlist. Again, I could name a bunch of other stuff that you guys would probably expect. Like I said, I didn't mention Mugler cologne. I didn't mention a lot of things that could fit in here because you guys have already heard that before. You don't need another person mentioning the same damn fragrances in every video about the same subject. Okay, I'm trying to be different. So I named some things you would expect and then some things that you wouldn't. Okay. Hope you enjoyed the video.